Okay, good evening and welcome to the Winthrop School Committee meeting of Monday, February 22nd, 2021. The meeting will be held through Zoom teleconference. Patty, can you please call the roll call?
Yes, Miss Barry.
Here.
Mr. Boncory.
Here.
Mr. Capabianco.
Here.
Mr. Matucci.
Here.
Miss Swope.
Unmute yourself, Susan.
Miss Swope. Miss Powell.
Here.
Mr. Perrin.
Here.
I'm here. Sorry.
The meeting will be recorded and may be televised live. Ms. Powell, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance
To the flag
of the United
States of America
and to the
and to the
republic
republic
for which it
which it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under God,
under God,
indivisible, liberty,
liberty,
and justice.
and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Powell. Public comment. Do we have any public comment this evening, Patty?
We do. We have Andriana Pavlos.
Okay, just before we start, I want to remind those participating that public comment to keep their comments to within 3 minutes to ensure that everyone has the opportunity to put forth their comments. And this is not a question and answer period or a debate. It is merely an opportunity for the public to express their public comment. Ms. Pavlos.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Thank you for allowing me to comment this evening. I would like to echo my sentiments from the last school committee meeting where I was able to comment, requesting for the members to work with administration to implement additional days of in-person learning, prioritizing our most vulnerable populations. A few more factors I would like to highlight this evening in support of additional days of in-person learning is the town of Winthrop is pressing ahead for the second week in the yellow zone, displaying a downward trend in COVID-19 positive cases, in addition to decreased detection of COVID in our wastewater. The Commonwealth has opened up the next phase of vaccines to those who qualify, which cover a vast majority of people. The continuation of our current hybrid model is weighing heavily, not only on some of our students, but some of our families as well, where they are seeking alternative programs to supplement our hybrid model. One of our well-respected childcare facilities in town is seeking additional space to host students for remote learning and after-school care. I appreciate and value the after-school programs and the care that they're offering, as it has afforded me the opportunity to work a traditional schedule prior to the pandemic. The need for space and the wait list these programs are experiencing should raise some level of further thought. They are renting town space to host their childcare programs, most in locations that are incomparable to any of our newly built schools. These programs are adhering to physical distancing, curbing the spread of COVID within these settings, and provide an alternative school-like environment for our students. The need for additional days of in-person learning is necessary. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your comment.
Thanks.
Any further public comment, Patty?
I don't see anything. No, that's it.
Okay, closing out public comment, we'll move on to general information and recommendations. Seeing no delegates and visitors, I'll move on to the minutes of February 8th, 2021. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of February 8th, 2021.
Approve.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Swope, seconded by Mr. Boncory. Any discussion? Hearing none. Patty, can I have a roll call vote, please?
Yes, Miss Barry.
Yes.
Mr. Boncory.
Yes.
Mr. Capabianco.
Yes.
Mr. Matucci.
Yes.
Miss Swope.
Yes.
Miss Powell.
Yes.
Mr. Perrin.
Yes. Okay, we're moving on to financial and business procedures. We have warrant SVW 21-14 in the amount of $163,929.81. Can I have a motion for that warrant in that amount?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Ms. Powell. Can I have a second on that motion, please?
Second.
Second by Ms. Swope. Do we have any discussion on the warrant? Hearing none. Patty, can I have a roll call vote, please?
Miss Barry.
Yes.
Mr. Boncory.
Yes.
Mr. Capabianco.
Yes.
Mr. Matucci.
Yes.
Miss Swope.
Yes.
Miss Powell.
Yes.
Mr. Perrin.
Yes. The next item up is the payroll warrant SPW 21-15, the amount of $281.71. I'll entertain a motion for that warrant in that amount.
Jen.
Ms. Barry makes the motion,
Second.
seconded by Ms. Powell. Any discussion on the payroll warrant? Hearing none. Patty, can I have a roll call vote, please?
Miss Barry,
Yes.
Mr. Boncory,
Abstain.
Mr. Capabianco,
Yes.
Mr. Matucci,
And
Miss Swope,
Yes.
Miss Powell,
Yes. Yes.
I'm sorry, I'm having a lot of background noise. If you're not speaking, if you mute your mics, please. And that's an abstention for me as well. Next is budget transfer in the amount of $14,896.38. I'll entertain a motion for that budget transfer in that amount.
motion.
Motion by Mr. Matucci. Can I have a second on that motion, please?
Second.
Second by Ms. Swope. Any discussion? Hearing none. Patty, can I have a roll call vote, please, on the budget transfer of $14,896.38?
Barry,
Yes.
Mr. Boncory,
Yes.
Mr. Capabianco,
Yes.
Mr. Matucci,
Yes.
Miss Swope,
Yes.
Miss Powell,
Yes.
Mr. Perrin.
Yes. Okay, moving on to buildings and grounds, we have none. Now we'll move on to general functions. There are no subcommittee reports at this time. Ms. Howard, do you have a superintendent's report this evening?
I do. Thank you very much. Just a few things this evening to go through. I'll start with something very important. Our Assistant Athletic Director, Mr. Frankie Fabiano, today completed 25 years of service at CVS. Frankie started working at CVS through our program at Winthrop High School, where we place students in workspaces for them to learn some critical life skills and employment skills. I had the good fortune of going down to CVS today to see Frankie. So he received lots of accolades and thank yous from customers and friends and family. So just a big shout out to Frankie Fab's amazing 25 years of service at CVS. So if you see Frankie, give him a fist bump or an elbow and let him know how proud you are of him. I know he's watching tonight. So hi, Frankie.
Great job, Frankie. Congratulations.
Then a few other items, an update on the School Business Authority. As folks know, prior to the pandemic kind of crashing down on us, we had been working on finishing up with the spending of the SBAC money that was left over from the new school building project. We had to slow down a little bit with that, given all that we have been dealing with our getting back to school and getting kids back in school. However, many things have been accomplished. We've had a split unit was one of the items that we needed to pay for in one of our rooms at the high school, and that's been accomplished. We are working on the door lock set resets, reconfiguring those to make them ADA compliant. Fin tubes, and those are tubes that I believe from my memory run through the ceiling to make sure that the heat is distributed appropriately. If you recall, we had a flood, I think about 2 years ago in the band room. So those things have been corrected. Our card readers needed to be updated. So the swiping of our cards, and when parents come in and put their license into the machine to make sure that they are eligible to pick up their students. We have new ones that are being ordered, as the ones that were originally put in had some failure. We've updated a number of our technology orders that still needed to be done to make sure we had sufficient technology for the total number of students that we have at the middle high school. So that progress has been a little bit slow, but now up and running. Of course, technology has been a difficult thing to access during the pandemic, but I'm happy to report that those things are now moving forward. I'm sure many folks who drove through Winthrop today saw that as part of that SBAC money that was left to be spent, that the tennis courts were being rehabbed. So that started today. There has been, I believe, a little bit of miscommunication in terms of the fencing that went up. I spoke with Chief Delahanty today, as well as some other folks from the committee. So we are working to make sure that that gets rectified and that those all of that notification and information that needs to be shared with neighbors and abutters is handled appropriately. So we are working on that. Some other updates around funding and budget. It's E-rate season. For those of you who don't know what E-rate is, it's a project in which the state will reimburse us for some very specific costs related to technology and service provisions with technology. There's a window that opens up in which we have to report to the E-rate group what it is that we are contemplating doing so that we can be assured that when we move forward with some of our projects that we receive that E-rate money back. So it's a reimbursement program similar to some of the energy programs that you see out there. So we completed that project with the 470 and the 471 E-rate, making sure our internet service provisions and our technology support and any updates to switches and points and bandwidth, as everyone knows, which are all my new best friends, that type of technology allows us for maximum reimbursement. So that has been completed, and now we will await for people to bid on those projects that we have in the future, and that's been completed. So I'm happy to report on that. It is athletic fall season 2, which is something new for schools in Massachusetts. For us, what is athletic fall season 2? It is taking care of our students who missed fall season 1. So football, boys and girls soccer, volleyball, cheerleading, boys and girls indoor track, and swimming all started today. We have 180 students participating at the high school level, which is a great number. So thrilled to see that we can start those sports up. Our students missed out on their fall season. So now they are going to take advantage. It's a shorter season. It will be starting today and ending in April. I don't know if folks have seen anything on social media, but I know that Coach Cadigan had some postings of the football team practicing out on Miller Field, taking the snow off first and creating an environment for them to be able to practice. I think what's critical to notice in some of those videos, and Coach Cadigan had sent them to me as well as Mr. Serino, is that you take a look at it, you could see how compliant our students are. So just think about how you exercise at your home gym now, and pre-COVID, how you exercise at the regular gym. And now imagine putting a mask on your face and doing that 6 feet away from anyone else. And so our students, the one video I have seen, or the couple of videos I've seen, have been football. And our students are certainly probably getting used to the mask wearing, but very compliant and doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing in terms of social distancing and keeping each other safe. So as we did with winter season, I anticipate that our students will be able to practice and play their games in a safe manner. And hopefully other teams are doing that so that they can get their full complement of games under their belt. So it's exciting to see that and that activity happening both within our gym, just like it did during the winter season with all of our athletes. Some other items, we're making progress. So as you are aware, you instructed me to begin the study of looking at distancing in our schools and the potential for us to be able to return more students at a lesser distance than 6 feet. So 6 feet is what we have agreed to do in the moment in our current hybrid model. All students are 6 feet apart at all times and masked at all times unless they're in the cafeteria eating or in their classroom 6 feet apart having snack. So we are deep into that study. And certainly I feel like we will be very ready to report to you at the next school committee meeting our findings. It's important to note too that while we're doing this study, we're continuing the path that we were on with our hybrid model and the direction that we were taking, which was continuing to maximize the number of students that we have in in-person learning. We have a number of students that are beyond 2 days now, and those are students that we've talked about in the past, our high need students, our ELL students, homeless students, and at-risk students. And we continue to bring as many students as we can in the building, even though we are conducting that study. So I feel like we will be very prepared to report back to you on March 8th. Part of that study, I believe, would be important for the school committee, and this is an invitation to the school committee, for the school committee to come into our schools at any time now and until the 8th, and certainly after that, you're always welcome. You do have to make an appointment to do that, but I would welcome the school committee to come in to the classrooms and see in-person learning and actually get that sort of real-time visualization of what it looks like in a school during a pandemic and during all these COVID restrictions. I know we have done videos. So when we were opening up for hybrid, each one of our schools did video presentations for parents to be able to see the innards of the school, what the classrooms look like, what the cafeteria looks like. And that's great to have, you know, that visual, but to see it in real time when we bring our bodies in. So not just our teachers, but when our students are in person learning in the hallways, in the classrooms. The hallways are very interesting to watch, how our students conduct themselves in the hallways and how our teachers guide them through at 6 feet apart, as well as what happens in the cafeteria, how our students eat, whether they're allowed to get up and throw their meals away, or how our cafeteria staff deliver meals to our students in their seats. It doesn't look like a cafeteria that you would see prior to COVID. It's all single desks in that cafeteria, 6 feet apart, with our students sitting at those desks. So I think it would be important for folks to do that. So I open that invitation up to the committee, and you can reach out directly to me, and I can make an arrangement for you to come in, and I would accompany you or have one of the principals accompany you throughout the school. Very different looking at elementary school than it does look at secondary. So middle and high school cafeterias look pretty similar, but classroom and movement through the hallways and students needing to leave the classroom to either go to the COVID medical waiting room or to see the nurse or to use the bathroom. We have bathroom monitors that are sitting outside almost every bathroom that log students in when they go into the bathroom, and then allow only 1 or 2 students depending on the size of the bathroom. So the management of that is interesting to see. And I do think that being able to get that visual will certainly support your thought process as we move forward and get closer to March 8th in making some more decisions. So please feel free to reach out to me directly to arrange that for you. And if you can't come in during a time that the students are in-person learning, you certainly can come in when there are no students in the building, and we can give you sort of the auditory version of what you would be seeing if there were kids in the classroom. It's really a good comparison when we're thinking about how many students are there now and then what we may add as we move forward in the project. And I believe that is the extent of my superintendent's report for tonight.
Does anyone have any questions for the superintendent, Ms. Barry?
Yes, I have a couple, sorry. So the first question is, could you provide an update on the return to, or the opportunity for current remote students to return to hybrid in March?
Sure. So that opportunity was presented to parents in December. So when we asked parents to commit to either staying home fully in the full remote model or to come back to school in hybrid, we also let them know that we were going to open up the opportunity for them to, in lack of better terms, change their mind come the spring. And the spring for us, why did we pick the spring? It's a natural transition time for us. We were starting hybrid learning on January 4th, and we believe that that amount of time between January 4th and sometime early spring would do a number of things. We'd have hopefully and now knowingly a better control of COVID in our community. Parents would have a real strong understanding of what being in school during hybrid learning meant for their in-school students. And we do have some parents who have students that are, one of their children may be hybrid and the other child may be fully remote. It would give parents an understanding and students an understanding after speaking with their friends or some of our middle school and high school students who are fully streaming live to be able to see what's going on in the classroom. And we felt as though folks would feel more comfortable. We also had an understanding of how we would feel in terms of our staff and teaching staff within the classroom after a period of time of doing both hybrid and remote. Given the school committee's motion to now look at full in-person learning 4 days a week plus with less distancing, it would be difficult for us to ask. Our intent was to do that the week of February 22nd, which is this week, to have parents make that decision if they were fully remote, that they would now like to have their children go back. However, we've sort of moved the goalpost a little bit, or potentially have moved the goalpost. So if we were to ask parents today, as we intended for this week, are you ready to come from full remote back into hybrid learning? We would be asking them if they would be ready to do that in the current model. And to ask them that in the current model, when the model may potentially change based on the study that we've been asked to do, wouldn't really be right, because we'd be asking them if they would be ready to come back to something that may very well change. So I've received a lot of feedback, as you know, because we've done an inordinate amount of surveys and then asked parents to make that final decision. I've received feedback that we've asked them a lot. We've sent them a lot of surveys. So to send them now a notice to make a commitment to change, we're asking them to commit to something that may change at 6 foot distancing, but it may be 3 foot distancing, it may be 4 foot distancing, and they do not know the implications of any of those changes yet. So conducting that, or asking parents to commit to something that may very well change 2 weeks later, really doesn't make a lot of sense. There's not really any other way for me to explain that, because if I ask them and a number of parents committed to coming back, I would have to then notify them 2 weeks later, thank you for committing to coming back and coming back. However, now the rules are changing, and what you came back to, which you thought was going to be 6 feet, is now less. And the other implications are, and quite frankly, now you may have to have another teacher. So those multiple changes for children. So if we think about sort of, or if I think about why I do this for a living, it's about kids. And the impact of multiple transitions on students, it's a lot. And the impact is, I can't find a lot of good things that talk about multiple impacts of multiple changes for students. So we've decided to pause that and delay that until we complete this study, so that when we do ask parents to commit, we're asking them to commit to something that we can fully inform them of what the impact of their choice will be. So they know exactly what they are committing to. And again, to ask parents to commit to something and then 2 weeks later tell them they have to commit again to something totally different, the impact on children in a case like that is, it's just not beneficial. So we're holding off on that until the study is conducted.
I have two more questions. They sort of are related. I think it was back in November or December, we were told that there was going to be a percentage of, or a certain quantity of tests, COVID tests that were going to be provided to the schools and given to the nurse's office.
Yep.
So I haven't heard much about that. I'd like to hear about that. And then also, I've seen a lot of schools that are participating, or districts that are participating in pool testing.
Yep.
So yeah, if you could just.
Sure. So the Binax testing is something we applied for and we're eligible for. I have a meeting tomorrow with Tara Bowie, who is the nurse lead, the COVID nurse lead for the school district now. So we have been provided with that. We had to register with Beacon. So it just happens to be the same association that this community works with in terms of COVID testing, and upload all of our data to Beacon. And so before we actually hit the upload button, we have to get parent permission. So tomorrow, Tara and I will be sitting down to go through the parent permission rollout, in which every parent and every teacher in the school district decides and determines whether or not they want to give permission for us to be able to do that rapid test. That's the 15-minute rapid nasal swab that is also should be followed up by a PCR test. So we hope that that rollout will be by next week, as soon as we are able to coordinate with Binax and they're ready for us, which we believe is now, we will be able to upload our information with our parents who have agreed to doing that. And then we can begin that right away. The pool testing, we look deeply into the pool testing. I think I talked about it at a prior school committee meeting, in that schools can be eligible for pool testing. And the initial rollout was 6 weeks of pool testing at no cost to the school district. It involves, and if you have Binax testing, that's great, but pool testing is another level of testing. The amount of staff oversight to be able to conduct pool testing in the 6-week trial period that they were giving all school districts for free, for us, the capacity was too much, and we hadn't had our Binax up and running yet. So we will do more digging on that. However, we would probably have to bring on, from our first assessment, and I know Meredith is on the line, but the management of it and the cost of it moving forward after the 6-week trial period falls directly on the school department. So the hiring of the staff to complete it, you have to courier those test results, so they're different than the Binax test results. They have to be couriered to, I believe it's a medical facility in Boston. I believe you have to contract with that agency. I know you do. You contract with them, and then you get the test results to them. So it's the cost, and I can give you our estimate. I don't have it in front of me now, but it was quite costly to be able to do it. Where we had testing in our community, here within the community that people can access, we're different than many districts that don't have it locally. So a lot of the school districts that we're finding, or that I have found, that have been using that and found it to be beneficial in the first 6 weeks, there's that same concern about the cost associated with it when you continue to use it. Some of the districts that I know were using it are those districts that don't have the luxury of an in-town testing facility. So we held off on the 6-week trial period because, as anything else, once you start doing it and you have it and then you lose it because you can't afford to continue it, we were balancing the in-town testing site that we have and the pool testing site. Our teachers, when our in-town testing site hours changed, and those hours changed based on conversations that the town was having with the folks that were doing the in-town testing, but there was also lots of communication from the police chief and Meredith to me around the implications of that testing site around our school and where it was and the location and our start of in-person learning. So the traffic that was associated with folks pulling up to the Cummings or being behind the school. So at that point in time, those hours changed a little bit, which definitely impacts our teachers' ability to get their tests done because they're in school, working school hours between, I think it was like 9 to 1 that we were offering it in town. We were flexible with our staff. They could go out during a lunch break and do that. But now that those hours have changed to an appointment-based within the community, we believe that our teachers will now have access to that, just like anyone else in the community who works during the school day. So I hope that was helpful. And Meredith can chime in if she wants, but I've spent a lot of time doing that. So unless I missed something, Meredith. So it doesn't look like I have.
Does anyone have anything else for the superintendent this evening?
You hit everything.
Okay.
Chairman.
Mr. Matucci?
Yeah, just a quick one. I just want to make sure that Lisa, that we're all set for the next meeting for the people on the school committee that can meet in person, are able to meet in person at the school. And
Yes.
that we're not,
Yep. So we have looked at, for the in-person meetings, we looked at using a camera that would be able to cover everybody. And we thought that using the auditorium, we could distance folks in the auditorium. If you're familiar with the auditorium, the Neil Shapiro Auditorium, we would also need to pull the screen down so that you could see the folks who wouldn't be able to participate in person on Zoom, and you could see the panel of people that could. Well, when you're in the Neil Shapiro Auditorium, when you pull the screen down, if the school committee was sitting on the stage, you would disappear because the screen comes down in front of you. So then we looked at alternatives within the high school to be able to hold those meetings. And we do have a classroom that was used as a music room. That's now an actual classroom. And that classroom has Wi-Fi in it, and it's connected, something to do with WCAT. So we can use that space. The problem with the camera that we were going to use is it's a GoToMeet camera. So it only connects everybody to GoToMeet, which would mean we'd have to work with the committee as well as the community to change from Zoom to GoMeet. So we now have another camera that doesn't require GoMeet that could still utilize Zoom, that we have access to, and that will be able for the next meeting to set up in a classroom for any one of the committee members who would like to sit in the classroom with your computer in front of you, and then we can project the Zoom meeting on a clear touch, and the camera will be able to see the folks in front of, in person inside that classroom, as well as the folks on Zoom. And the audio with this particular machine will enable everybody to hear the folks in the classroom or the folks that are Zooming in, and WCAT as well. So I anticipate that the next meeting for any committee member who would like to be physically in a classroom space will be able to do that, and we'll still be able to bring in the rest of the folks who still need to Zoom from their home location to be part of that. In terms of having people come into the building, so the public coming into the classroom, we're not ready for that yet because of the amount of work that would entail allowing people into this smaller space. So it's a much smaller space than the auditorium. You wouldn't be able to have more than 10 people in that space. However, the access through Zoom for the community will not change at all. So there'll be no change, and hopefully the participation from the community will stay where it's been, which is higher than it's ever been from my memory, whether I was the PPS director sitting on the floor of the school committee or, in this role as a superintendent. So it's encouraging that many folks have taken the opportunity to participate via Zoom. And I left one piece out of my school committee report that I apologize for, the business manager interviews. So that's something that I haven't given you an update on. As everyone knows, last year, Ms. Susan Eccles was up for retirement. She, because of COVID, and when COVID hit, she has decided to stay on this year, and she's here. I'm talking like you're not here. Hi, Susan. And so, however, Susan is, going to exercise her right to retire. Wish she'd take a superintendent with her on the way out, but she can't. And so we have pursued that now. It was approved for the budget as a position to come back into the budget last year. And so we didn't use it this year, so we will continue to use it for the upcoming school year. So we have worked with MSBA, the School Business Authority, has helped us work to seek out business managers who are interested in coming to our community, and received probably about 17 applications in total, of which I went through. So the school business manager, the fortunate being that they will have to work side by side with me. So we looked at, I looked at a number of those, and having a certified school business manager isn't one of my #1 priorities. So looking through those applications, we decided to interview 6 people. So far we have completed 2 of those interviews. We have 2 more interviews this week and 2 more interviews next week. We have a committee of people who volunteered to help. There's a principal on the committee. The current curriculum director is on the committee. We have Ms. Powell is on the committee. Susan Eccles is on the committee. And there's, I believe, a handful of other people. We asked the same, I believe there's about 12 questions that were put together. MSBA had given us some recommended questions, and we'll complete all of those interviews. And then it's my job to bring to the school committee my recommendation for the next business manager for the school department. And you folks will be able to approve that or send me back to the table to do some more looking. So I anticipate having that at probably for the meeting on the 22nd of March, after I go through, and I don't want to bring a candidate before the committee that I don't do my due diligence on in terms of background checking and reference checking and things like that. And that takes a little bit of time. So I anticipate having something to present to you on March 22nd.
Thank you.
Yes.
Ms. Swope?
Lisa, and thank you, Mr. Chairman. Lisa, you sent us the resumes of the 6.
I did.
Are you interested in, I read them through. I didn't know if you were interested in any feedback. Should I send any feedback I have to you?
Sure. I mean, if there's something or any questions you have about any of those candidates or things that pique your interest, then you know me, I'm always open for the discussion. You can either shoot me an email.
I'll just shoot you an email.
Yeah, I'd be happy to call you and talk to you about that.
Okay, great.
Okay, I'm going to move on. Is there any homeschool applications this evening? Any additional?
There are none.
Okay. Personnel. Ms. Howard, do we have any personnel matters this evening?
Yes, and I believe I may have done this last meeting. I'm not sure. But Daniel Bertrand has been hired as an ESP at the middle school, and Aaron Clements been hired as a math teacher, filling in for some of our math teachers who are on medical leave. And I believe he is scheduled to begin the first week in March. And I have no resignations, no retirements, no postings, and no leaves of absence.
Okay, I'm going to move on to public relations. Ms. Barry, do you have anything this evening?
No, not tonight. Thanks.
Mr. President Boncory? Nothing? Mr. Capabianco?
Nothing.
Mr. Matucci, do you have anything this evening?
All set.
Ms. Swope?
No, nothing.
Ms. Powell, do you have anything this evening?
Not this evening.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Matucci. Can I have a second, please?
Second.
Second by Ms. Powell. Ms. Ames, can we have a roll call vote for the record?
Barry?
Yes.
Mr. Boncory?
Yes.
Mr. Capabianco?
Yes.
Mr. Matucci?
Yes.
Ms. Swope?
Yes.
Ms. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Perrin?
Yes. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate it.
I know.
Have a good night.
Good night.
Good night. Be safe, please.